think it's piece talks also about differences of people and of minorities, you could say. And I think part of what is in my dark history is I'm a gay homosexual man, and that has been tough when I was younger. I think times are changing, luckily. Yeah, when I was younger, it was still an issue. I still didn't dare to come out to my parents, to my surroundings. I remember my brother was the first person I told it, and he said, "Don't tell your parents. You know, they will not like it." So I think that was really like a darker time of my life, and I feel that the theme of homosexuality, but also making it broader and think about different types of minority, and that still finds a place in my work, and especially also in this work. I looked for ways to bring texts into the piece. Of course, the title is a very big thing, and I also don't know how much we are allowed to talk about that. The title is a quote from Xi Jinping he made during the protests in Hong Kong, in which he said, like, any attempt to divide China will end in crushed bodies and shattered bones. And I found that such a violent word, and when I read it on the website of CNN, I thought, okay, people are going to react, European Union is going to react, or very naively I thought America with Trump is going to react, but nobody did. And it is a sign of the power that he has, but it's also a sign of how used we became to violence in language, but of course also the danger of how quickly violence in language can turn into real language. And I found it important to bring this harsh reality also, to insert it in the piece next to this very hopeful message, because it's both, and it would not feel right to do only one of the two, but to say, yes, we need to be hopeful, but things need to change. There are really heavy things, and we should not just shrug our shoulders when there is again a very violent thing happening, but we should react, and we should understand that it's not okay that this is happening. I think for me it was important to have a very diverse group. That was the beginning, not only because of the team, but also because often on dance stages we see too many of the similar people or the similar bodies, young people between 20 and 28 years old. Often castings for the big companies, you need to be between you need to be between 1.70 m and 1.75 m if you want to have a job. So the idea was really to think of a corps de ballet, but like in a very different way. Why does a corps de ballet cannot consist out of very diverse people with very diverse backgrounds? I think also because before I started making dance or became a choreographer, I was somebody who went to see theater and went to see dance, and why I liked to go to the theater is because I could learn something about myself by watching others. I find it important that an audience can recognize themselves into not everybody, but that they feel that there is a representation of society on stage. So that was very important in the casting. I wanted to have different languages, so not often when you see also a company, they're all trained the same way to be able to convey the language of the choreographer. And for me it was very important to not put value of one language over another, but to say, like, hey, there is all these languages out there in the world, and each one is interesting in itself. And for some people this can be too expressive and this can be too minimalist, but they all have a reason to exist, and they're all very beautiful languages. So that is why I casted and I looked for all the different backgrounds. I think that is the base, but also of course how they look, different sizes, different backgrounds, different black people, people of color, white people. And Truus, for example, 72 now, was also a woman I've been working with before. And that's also what I want to do, is to reflect the theme of protest. And for example, Truus was somebody who lived in Amsterdam and in the 70s was really fighting for women's rights. Or Ty and Tim were both in their 50s and danced in the New York of the 80s, in the middle of the AIDS crisis, who were also fighting for recognition and cheaper medication for their peers and for their colleagues. I mean, it's not that I selected them because of that, but it was a really nice extra to be able to talk about protesting and what do you stand for and what do you fight for with people who really did that. in different times of their lives. I think art can also just be beautiful, or can bring new textures to the foreground without any content-based themes. For me, I find it important to work with things that I see around me, a way to address themes, a way to together think about a theme, to become aware. So that is something which I often do in my work, is to what I find goes wrong, to address that. Especially in this piece, I hope that for the audience it awakens this idea of why do we accept all this language or all this aggression, and at the same time that it gives enthusiasm to rebel or to insist, to stand up for things that you're not okay with, to speak up, to stand up, to speak up. And that's a feeling we really work to. We really try to activate an audience in this performance by working with the contrast of silence and action, and especially towards the end of the piece, to wake them up, I would say. It is important to understand my position in the world, to learn more about me and about my peers and about my friends and about how do we live and how can we go on. I find it important to, within the work, think and reflect about things that happen around us.